Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. Adana sat by the window of her tiny one-room apartment, the thread between her fingers slipping loose for the third time that evening. The sewing machine whirred and stuttered, threatening to give up just like her. Outside, the Lego street bustled with life, hawkers shouting about gala and pure water, Danfo buses honking impatiently, and children chasing each other barefoot. Yet inside her cramped room, all she could hear was the voice inside her head reminding her of failure. Her landlord's words echoed in her memory, "Adana, if you don't bring my rent by the end of the week, pack your load. I know they do charity." She had smiled weakly, promised him soon, but even she knew it was a lie. Business was bad. Customers wanted designs but none wanted to pay full price. Just then her phone buzzed. The name flashed on the screen, Ngozi. She hesitated, staring at the name. Her best friend since secondary school. Or rather, the girl who had once been her best friend. Ngozi was the one who always seemed to have everything fall into place. Beauty, brains, and now wealth. Adana sighed before answering. "Hello Ngo," she forced a cheerful tone. "Adana." Ngozi's voice sparkled with joy. "Guess what? Chike just proposed." I said yes. Adana froze, her fingers clutching the phone so tightly her knuckles whitened. She forced out a laugh. "Wow, that's wonderful news. Congratulations." "I'm so happy," Ngozi gushed on. "He surprised me at the boutique today right in front of my staff. You should have seen it, Ada, it was magical. I can't wait for you to see the ring." Her words stabbed deeper with every syllable. Adana could imagine it already, Ngozi standing in her boutique, dressed in a bright Ankara gown, her staff cheering, Chike sliding a diamond ring onto her finger. Adana had known Chike too. He was polite, handsome, and fiercely ambitious. A man who seemed carved out for success. You must come to dinner tomorrow," Ngozi continued. "I'll cook and you'll meet Chike properly again. Please don't say no." Adana swallowed hard. "All right. I'll come." When the call ended, Adana let the phone slip from her hands. She stared at the cracked ceiling, her chest heaving. The tiny room seemed to shrink around her. Why not me? The next evening, Adana arrived at Ngozi's new home. She had ironed her only decent dress twice, trying to smooth out its faded fabric, but she still felt like an imposter walking through the estate gates. The security men nodded respectfully once she mentioned Ngozi's name. Inside, her heart sank further. The house was everything Adana had dreamed of: polished tiles that gleamed under soft lights, a neatly furnished living room with velvet curtains, and the scent of stew wafting from the kitchen. "Ada." Ngozi appeared, glowing in a simple but elegant gown. Her engagement ring sparkled as she hugged Adana. "You look good. Come, come." Chike joined them soon, carrying a tray of drinks. He greeted Adana warmly. "You're welcome. Ngozi has told me plenty about you. Please feel at home." As they ate, Ngozi talked about her boutique's growth. "My customers keep increasing. I'm even planning to expand into Lekki next year," she said, smiling at Chike. He squeezed her hand, pride written all over his face. Adana forced a smile, but her food turned to ash in her mouth. She watched them laugh together, their fingers entwined, their dreams intertwined. Her chest burned with something she didn't want to name. "So, Ada," Chike asked kindly, "how is your tailoring business?" She froze. Ngozi's eyes softened as though to cushion the question. Adana managed a shaky smile. "We thank God," she muttered. Silence stretched for a moment before Ngozi quickly added, "Adana is very talented. She used to help me with my clothes back in school, remember? Without her, I wouldn't have had half the compliments I did." Her tone was meant to be kind, but to Adana it sounded like pity, a public reminder that she was the helper, never the star. After dinner, Adana excused herself early. Outside, the cool night breeze kissed her skin, but inside she was burning. Back in her room, she dropped her bag and sank onto the bed. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was her boyfriend Segan. Or rather, her ex. "Ada," his voice was cold, "I can't keep doing this. You're a good person, but I need someone who can keep up. I'm tired of managing. I've met someone else." Her chest tightened. "Segan, please." But the line had already gone dead. Adana stared at the dark screen until her vision blurred. The landlord wanted her out. The love of her life had walked away. And her best friend had everything she ever dreamed of: love, wealth, success. She stood pacing the room. Her reflection in the cracked mirror stared back at her, eyes wide with pain and anger. Why is it always Ngozi? Why does she get everything while I get nothing? The envy inside her twisted like a living thing. She remembered how she had stayed up late helping Ngozi study back in school, only for Ngozi to graduate first class while she barely scraped through. She remembered how Ngozi had gotten her first boutique customer because Adana had introduced her, yet Ngozi never looked back. Tears slid down her cheeks. She whispered to herself, "It should have been me." The room felt colder that night. Every creak in the walls echoed her thoughts. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, resentment gnawing at her insides like termites eating wood. And as sleep finally dragged her under, one thought refused to leave her mind. If only Ngozi's life were mine. Adana's life seemed to crumble further with each passing day. The morning after Ngozi's dinner, her landlord stood at her door, arms folded, face like carved stone. "Adana, this is the last time I'm warning you. Bring my rent by Friday or pack your things." She tried to explain. "Please Baba Tund, business has been slow. Customers owe me." Story. "If you can't pay, someone else will." He banged the door shut. Her hands shook. She turned to her sewing machine, hoping work would distract her. But just then her phone buzzed again, another reminder from her bank. Her loan repayment was overdue. By evening she had barely eaten. As she walked through the noisy Lagos market, hawkers shoving goods at her, she bumped into her ex-boyfriend Segan with a new woman hanging on his arm. The woman's hair was neatly braided, her dress freshly ironed. Segan smirked. "Ada," he said with mock sympathy. "You see, life is moving on. Try to do the same." The woman giggled. Adana clenched her fists but forced herself to walk away. Every step pounded with humiliation. Later that night, Ngozi sent her another cheerful voice note. "Ada, wedding planning is stressing me but I can't wait. I wish you could be my maid of honor, you've always been my closest sister." The words pierced Adana's chest. Sister? She didn't feel like a sister. She felt like a shadow, always standing behind while Ngozi glowed in the light. She pressed her pillow over her face to silence her sobs. The envy grew sharper. For the first time she thought, if Ngozi weren't here maybe the world would finally see me. Days later, Ngozi invited Adana to her boutique. The shop sparkled with new dresses, shelves lined with designer shoes. Customers bustled in and out, admiring the fabrics. "Business is booming," Ngozi said, handing her a chilled drink. "Can you imagine? A customer offered me double just to reserve my latest design. God has been faithful." Adana forced a smile. Her gaze landed on a photograph framed on the wall, Ngozi and Chaik, arms wrapped around each other, radiant with joy. "You're really lucky," Adana muttered. Ngozi laughed. "Not luck, Ada. Hard work and prayers." The words stung. Hadn't Adana worked hard too? Hadn't she prayed every night? That evening, Adana returned home to an empty shop. No customers. No calls. Nothing but silence. She sat in darkness, whispering, "Why not me? Why is it never me?" Her voice cracked as rage boiled in her chest. She pounded her fist against the table until her knuckles bled. One rainy Friday night, Adana ducked into a local bar to escape the storm. Men sat drinking, their voices loud with gossip. "Na money day rule this life," one said laughing. "Some people day even kill just to get ahead." The others roared with laughter. "Abio. People kill for less." Adana froze. The words seared into her mind. She stared into her drink, her reflection trembling in the liquid. "Kill for less." She shook her head, chuckling nervously. "I could never," she whispered. Yet when she walked home the idea clung to her like the rain. By the time she reached her room, her thoughts whispered, "If Ngozi is gone, everything she has can be mine." The idea grew roots. Adana began watching Ngozi closely, when she left her boutique, when she came home, when she was alone. She noticed Ngozi always closed her shop late on Wednesdays and walked the lonely stretch of road toward her estate gate. Adana scribbled notes in an old exercise book. Dark street. Few cars. No police patrol. Her hands shook as she wrote, but she couldn't stop. She even borrowed a kitchen knife from her neighbor, pretending she needed it for meat. Every night, she lay awake imagining it. A quick strike, silence, and then freedom. She has everything. She doesn't deserve it. I deserve it. The rain poured mercilessly that Wednesday night. Thunder rolled across the sky as Adana followed Ngozi's figure from a distance. Ngozi clutched her handbag, her umbrella barely holding against the storm. Adana's heart hammered. Her hand gripped the knife wrapped in cloth. "Adana?" Ngozi suddenly turned, sensing movement. Her eyes widened. "What are you doing here?" Adana's lips trembled. I just wanted Her hand shot forward. The knife plunged. Ngozi gasped, her voice cracking. What? Adana? She collapsed onto the wet ground, blood mixing with rain. Adana stood frozen, chest heaving, lightning flashing across her face. Then she ran, leaving behind her best friend's fading life. Panic consumed her. She dragged Ngozi's lifeless body into an abandoned shed nearby. Her clothes were drenched, her hands slippery with blood. She stripped the handbag, burning its contents with kerosene she found in the corner: purse, scarf, receipts. The flames crackled, devouring evidence. She kept only Ngozi's keys, gripping them like treasure. Back home, she scrubbed the knife until her fingers bled. She stared at her reflection in the mirror, eyes wild, face pale. You did it, she whispered. You're free now. But the reflection seemed to whisper back, murderer. At dawn, Adana stood outside Ngozi's house, clutching the keys. Her heart pounded as she unlocked the door. The house smelled of lavender and fresh paint. She stepped inside, running her fingers along the polished furniture. This is mine now, she whispered. That night, she lay on Ngozi's bed, the soft sheets embracing her. For the first time, she didn't hear rats scratching in the walls. She closed her eyes and smiled. In the morning, she cooked breakfast in Ngozi's kitchen, plating eggs and yam as though she belonged there. Finally, she whispered, I'm living. Her phone buzzed. Chaik's name lit up the screen. Hello, my love, his voice rang. How are the wedding plans? Adana froze. She forced a cough. Ngozi isn't feeling well, she rasped, mimicking her friend's voice. She'll call later. Chaik chuckled. Tell her to rest. I'll come by tomorrow. Wait. Adana panicked. She said not to disturb her. Maybe next week. She hung up, her hands trembling. Friends called too, and she dodged their questions with excuses. For a while it worked. She answered texts pretending to be Ngozi, mimicking her tone, her emojis. But one neighbor swore she saw a different woman walking around the house at night. Whispers began to spread. Adana sat on Ngozi's couch, clutching a glass of wine, whispering to herself, I can do this. No one will know. Yet in her chest, fear simmered. Chaik was a patient man, but patience has its limits. He sat in his car outside Ngozi's gate, staring at the locked door. He had called 3 times that morning. Each time, a cough-filled voice had told him Ngozi was resting. Something felt off. He knocked. After a pause, the door opened slightly. Adana peeked out, wrapped in one of Ngozi's shawls. Chaik, she forced a smile. Ngozi is asleep. She doesn't want to be disturbed. Chaik frowned. Asleep? For 3 days. She's been stressed, Adana stammered. The wedding planning. Chaik cut her off. Let me see her. I'll just check on her. No. Adana said too quickly. She softened her tone. Please give her time. He stared at her, uneasy. Something about her voice lacked Ngozi's usual warmth. As he left, his suspicion deepened. The woman he loved had never hidden from him before. Driving away, he whispered to himself, Ngozi, what's going on? Inside, Adana locked the door, her chest pounding. She leaned against it, whispering, Stay calm. Stay calm. But doubt had entered the picture. The neighborhood buzzed with gossip. Have you seen Ngozi lately? One woman asked another at the estate shop. No, came the reply. Last I saw was a stranger walking around her house at night. Then different gate. Definitely not Ngozi. By evening, whispers spread like wildfire. Adana noticed people staring at her when she walked outside to fetch water. She forced a smile, pretending to be Ngozi's cousin, visiting from another town. One old neighbor wasn't convinced. Ngozi never mentioned a cousin, she muttered. Back inside, Adana collapsed onto the couch. Her hands shook as she poured a drink. She switched on the TV, but every laugh track and every song felt mocking. She whispered to herself, they won't find out. They can't. But outside her window, voices carried. Doubt was growing. That night, Adana dreamed of rain. Ngozi stood there, blood dripping, dress torn. Her eyes hollow. She whispered, You stole my life. Adana woke with a scream, drenched in sweat. She stumbled to the mirror. For a moment, she swore Ngozi's face stared back at her. No, she cried, slapping the glass. It shattered, tiny shards slicing her hand. She bandaged it shakily, muttering, I won. She's gone. I won. But the nightmares didn't stop. Every night, Ngozi returned, sometimes laughing, sometimes crying, sometimes silent. Adana stopped sleeping, her eyes dark with exhaustion. She whispered to herself, It's just my mind. Just my mind. Yet deep down she feared Ngozi's spirit was not at rest. Chike couldn't take it anymore. He showed up again, banging on the door. "Ngozi, open up. It's me." Adana peeked through the curtains, panic flooding her veins. She wrapped herself in a robe and opened slightly. "Check." Ngozi traveled suddenly, she blurted. "Traveled?" He frowned. "Without telling me?" "She was overwhelmed," Adana said, her voice shaky. Chike's eyes scanned the room. Something was missing. "Where's her gold necklace?" "She never takes it off." Adana froze. "She packed it." But the lie came too late. His jaw tightened. He stepped closer. "Who are you really? And where is Ngozi?" Adana's hands trembled. "I told you." He shook his head, anger flashing. "If I don't hear from her soon, I'm going to the police." He stormed off. Adana slammed the door shut, sliding to the floor, whispering, "He knows. He knows." Ngozi's boutique staff grew restless. Days had passed without their boss showing up. Her phone was silent. One of them, Ifeoma, finally went to the police. "Our madam has disappeared. This is not normal." Soon, posters appeared across Lagos. "Missing, Ngozi Emeka." Adana's chest clenched when she saw one pasted near the estate gate. She tore it down quickly, looking around nervously. Inside the house she paced. "They're looking for her. They'll never stop." Her phone buzzed again. Chike's voice was hard. "I filed a report. If you're hiding anything, I'll find out." Adana's breath came in sharp gasps. She whispered, "No one will take this from me. No one." But her world was already cracking. The more she lived in the house, the less joy it gave her. She ate at the dining table, but every bite tasted bitter. She sat in the living room, but every creak in the wood made her flinch. She lay in the bed, but cold whispers filled her ears. Still she clung to it all. "This is mine," she whispered fiercely. "I suffered. I deserve this." She dressed in Ngozi's clothes, sprayed her perfumes, walked through the boutique pretending to be the owner. But staff gave her strange looks. Friends asked questions she dodged. At night, she drank heavily to silence the guilt. But guilt had no off switch. Her greed had brought her here, but it was cursing her every step. Inspector Belwa was a seasoned officer, calm and calculating. He visited the neighborhood, asking questions. Neighbors spoke of a cousin, who appeared just as Ngozi disappeared. He raised an eyebrow. "Did she ever mention such a cousin before?" he asked. "No," the old neighbor replied firmly. "Never." Belwa made notes. He studied bank records, phone logs, CCTV around the estate. Inconsistencies jumped out. He circled Ngozi's house on his list. "Watch it closely," he told his team. Inside, Adana sensed eyes on her. She peeked through curtains at patrol cars rolling by. She whispered to herself, "They won't catch me. I'm smarter." But Belwa had already marked her name in red. The mask began to slip. At the boutique, Adana signed checks but forgot Ngozi's neat handwriting. Staff exchanged uneasy glances. At church she wore the wrong perfume, one Ngozi hated. A friend leaned over and whispered, "Ngozi, since when did you like this scent?" Adana forced a laugh, but her heart pounded. Inspector Belwa gathered these slips carefully. He traced Adana's debts, her eviction threats, her failed business. He painted a picture, a jealous friend with motive. Meanwhile, Chike grew restless. "Something's wrong," he told Belwa. "That woman in her house is not my Ngozi." Belwa nodded. "We'll find the truth." And Adana, in her lonely room at night, whispered, "Hold it together. Just hold it together." But the cracks were widening. Chike couldn't sleep. One evening, driven by desperation, he walked the path Ngozi always took home. Rain fell lightly, soaking his shirt. His eyes caught a small abandoned shed. Something urged him closer. Inside, the smell of burnt fabric lingered. He bent down and froze. In the ashes, a piece of Ngozi's handbag lay half-burnt. His heart thundered. He staggered out, clutching the charred fragment. "Oh my God! Ngozi!" He rushed to Inspector Belwa with the evidence. The officer's eyes narrowed. "This changes everything." That night, patrol cars surrounded Ngozi's estate. Inside, Adana poured herself another drink, trying to silence the ghosts. She didn't know her past had just returned to drag her down. The first siren reached the estate like a rumor. The second turned rumor into certainty. Blue lights spilled across the lavender walls of Ngozi's living room, flickering against framed photographs that didn't belong to Adana. She stood barefoot on the cold tiles, a glass in her hand. It slipped, shattered, and a dark splash bled across the floor. Knuckles rapped the door, firm, official. "Open up, please," a calm voice called. "Police." Her breath stuttered. She ran to the kitchen window, but officers already covered the back gate, silhouettes glistening in the rain. No escape. The knock came again, louder this time. "We have a warrant." Adana tugged a shawl around her shoulders, opened the door a crack. Inspector Balewa stood there beneath the dripping awning, calm as stone. Beside him, Chike's face looked carved from grief and rage. "Good evening," Balewa said evenly. "We are executing a search in relation to Ms. Ngozi Emeka's disappearance." "She traveled," Adana blurted. You told several stories," Balewa replied gently. "Please step aside." Gloved officers streamed inside, one toward the sitting room, two to the bedrooms, another down the hall. Radios murmured. Zippered evidence bags sighed open. Adana leaned against the wall, arms folded tightly, watching strangers touch the life she had stolen. Chike lingered on the threshold like a man visiting a grave. His voice cracked. "Where is she, Adana? Where is my Ngozi?" "I don't know," she whispered. "She left." His jaw clenched. "Stop lying." In the master bedroom, an officer slid open the dressing table drawer. Bengals chimed. A velvet box revealed the gold necklace Ngozi never removed. Another officer lifted a damp exercise book from beneath the bed, pages crowded with dates, times, a route underlined, Wednesday, gate. Someone called from the bathroom. They had found an old brown stain under a bath mat, the color of dried rust. "Bag everything," the lead muttered. Balewa's gaze returned to Adana. "You are entitled to a lawyer. Do you want one present?" Her voice shook. "I didn't do anything." The shawl felt as heavy as wet cement. From the study, an officer held up a tagged key set and a pair of shoes with softened soles. "Smells of fuel," he said. Her stomach pitched. The shed flashed in her mind, kerosene, ash, the way fire crawled like tongues. Outside, a reporter's voice rang. "Breaking news, police raid in the case of the missing boutique owner." Faces gathered beyond the fence, umbrellas trembling. The old neighbor tightened her scarf and crossed herself. "Hands visible," an officer said firmly. Cold metal kissed Adana's wrists. A guttural sound escaped her throat. As they guided her out, cameras clustered, questions fluttering like birds. "Are you the cousin? Where is Ngozi? Did you take her house?" The rain made the world gleam, shame reflecting everywhere. She turned to Chike. "Please?" He stepped back, grief hardening to steel. "Say her name," he murmured. "Say it like you loved her. It was supposed to be me." The cry tore from her chest, raw and blazing. The street hushed. Even the rain seemed to pause. Balewa's eyes narrowed, not triumphant, simply exact. "At the station," he said. "No more here." They eased her into the van. The door shut with a coffin-soft thud. Through the slit in the window she saw the house glowing under blue light, as if the paint itself were capable of innocence. The station smelled of dust and old stories. A ceiling fan clicked like a metronome. They took her fingerprints, photographed her face, inventoried her things. Shawl, phone, silence. An officer removed the cuffs and guided her into an interview room. The table scarred, 2 chairs, a recorder with a red eye. Inspector Balewa entered, set his hat on the table and "Saturday, for the record, state your name." Her lips trembled. "Adana Okoye. You understand your rights?" She nodded faintly. "Then tell me," Balewa said, pen poised, "about Wednesday night." Her throat locked. "I was at home. Your neighbor saw you at the gate. CCTV places someone of your build near the estate. Your shoes carry kerosene, matching residue at the shed." He slid a clear evidence bag across the table. Inside lay a charred scrap of handbag. "This belonged to Miss Emeka." Adana stared at it. Her reflection warped in the plastic. Her hand shook. "I didn't mean to." "You didn't mean to what?" Balewa asked softly. Tears spilled. Words cracked loose. "To hurt her." She turned and said my name. "I thought it would change everything." Through the glass panel, Chike appeared, pale, eyes burning. "Where is she?" he demanded. Adana bowed her head. Her voice was a thread. "Gone," she said faintly. "The shed, off the old road, behind the mango tree. Under the boards." Balewa wrote quickly. Then he looked at her, not victorious but grave. "Why, Adana?" Her sob was hollow. "Because I wanted her life," she whispered. "I thought I could borrow it." The fan clicked on, steady as judgment. Outside, sirens wailed again, carrying her confession into the Lagos night. The prison gates clanged shut with a metallic finality, echoing in Adana's ears like the end of a song she had never wanted to hear. The smell hit her first: sweat, bleach, unwashed clothes, and the faint tang of despair that seemed to linger in the walls. "Move," a female warden barked, pushing her lightly forward. Chains rattled on her wrists as she stumbled down the corridor. Inmates leaned against cell bars, their eyes following her. Some sneered, others whispered. A few laughed cruelly, recognizing her face from newspapers plastered with headlines, "Best friend murdered over jealousy." One woman hissed, "See the Lagos madam. Wanted to live rich. Now she go live here with us." The word stung more than any slap. Adana was shoved into a small cell with 3 other women. The mattress was torn, the walls damp. Rats skittered in the corner. She clutched the thin blanket to her chest, trying not to cry. But night did not offer mercy. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, Ngozi's voice still echoing in her head. "Why, Adana?" She tried to shut her ears, but guilt had no door to close. The trial that followed was swift. The courtroom filled daily, neighbors, reporters, strangers hungry for scandal. Chaik sat in the front row, hollow-eyed, his hands clenched like stone. Adana sat in the dock, shackled, her lawyer whispering strategies that meant nothing. The prosecution painted her as a woman consumed by envy, willing to kill for comfort. They brought evidence: the burnt handbag scrap, the knife with faint traces of blood, her diary filled with jealous ramblings. When Chaik took the stand, his voice broke. "She killed my future. Ngozi was more than my fiancée, she was light." And Adana snuffed it out. Every word drove nails into Adana's chest. She lowered her head, unable to meet his eyes. The jury took less than an hour. The verdict: guilty. The sentence: life imprisonment. The courtroom gasped. Some cheered. Others wept. Adana felt the ground tilt beneath her. Life. The very life she had tried to steal was now replaced by chains. Back in prison, days bled into weeks. She scrubbed floors, washed clothes, queued for watery stew. Guards shouted, inmates fought, and time stretched like an endless punishment. She tried to find escape in sleep, but sleep brought Ngozi, her smile, her laughter, her whisper, "Sister, why?" One night, she jolted awake to the sound of laughter outside her cell. Her cellmate, a sharp-eyed woman named Mama Beezy, stared at her. "You think wealth can be stolen?" Mama Beezy asked softly. "Wealth no day stay with thief. You take person joy, it go burn you from inside." Adana had no answer. Tears slid silently down her face. Months later, her reflection in the prison's cracked bathroom mirror shocked her. Her once smooth skin sagged with exhaustion, her eyes dull, her hair rough. She barely recognized the woman staring back. She remembered the night she had stood before that same kind of mirror in Ngozi's house, whispering, "This is mine now." Now she had nothing. No boutique. No house. No fiancé. No best friend. Only a name etched in shame. One rainy afternoon, she was summoned to the visitor's room. Chains clinked as she was led there. Through the glass partition she froze. It was Chaik. His face was thinner, his eyes tired, but his presence was still commanding. He picked up the phone on his side of the glass. Hesitantly, Adana picked up hers. "Why are you here?" she whispered. His voice was low but firm. "To see if you have anything left to say." Her lips trembled. I never wanted to kill her. I wanted her life." His eyes burned. "And what did it give you?" Silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. Tears blurred her vision. "Nothing," she whispered. "It gave me nothing." Chaik's jaw tightened. He placed his hand against the glass. "You can rot in here forever, but remember this: Ngozi deserved life and you took it. Every day you breathe, remember her." He dropped the phone, stood and walked away. Adana pressed her hand against the glass, but he never turned back. Seasons passed. Rain turned to harmattan, harmattan to rain again. Prison uniforms replaced dreams. Whispers replaced laughter. One Sunday, a pastor came to preach in the prison yard. He read from the Bible. "For what shall it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul?" The words pierced Adana like arrows. She bowed her head, sobbing. It was too late. She had gained nothing and her soul was in ruins. She began writing letters in her cell, letters to Ngozi. She filled pages with apologies, memories, and grief. But there was no address to send them to, only the cold wall where she tucked them. Years slipped away. Adana aged in prison, her beauty faded, her voice quieter. The world outside forgot her name, but inside, whispers still followed. "That's the woman who killed her best friend." And every time she heard it, she flinched. On her 50th birthday, sitting on the bare mattress, she whispered to herself, "It should have been me who died that night." The words hung heavy in the air, a truth that came too late. She closed her eyes, hearing Ngozi's laugh one last time, bright, gentle, forgiving. For the first time in years, she let herself imagine what life could have been if envy had not poisoned her heart. But imagination could not unlock chains. The camera of life zooms out. Adana sits alone in her cell, staring into nothing. No family visits, no friends, no future. Just silence, the echo of Ngozi's last words, "Why, Adana?" And that silence, heavier than prison walls, was her true punishment. She thought murder gave her everything. But it took more than she could ever imagine. Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.